At our family's Sunday brunch, my sister smirked and remarked, "Nice of you to show up like it makes a difference." My father let out a soft laugh. My mother just kept chewing her food. I took a bite of my bagel and stayed silent. 3 days later, I sold the lake house and terminated all their streaming subscriptions. That evening, my brother sent a text. "Why's everything cut off?" The family group chat exploded. Then my father's attorney called. It was a miserable Sunday gathering, and deep down, I regretted even walking through the door. The moment I entered, no one bothered to say hello. The table was already laid out, eggs, bacon, slightly burnt bagels, but everyone was lost in their own world. My mother stood at the sink, scrubbing plates she hadn't even touched yet. My father was parked in his usual chair by the television, its volume barely audible. Jake gave me a faint nod from the opposite end of the table. And Lindsay? She was sipping a mimosa, acting like she was at some upscale city brunch instead of our parents' outdated beige dining room in Ohio. I didn't expect a warm welcome, but the silence was jarring. I pulled out a chair and sat, feeling like an uninvited guest who'd wandered in by mistake. For a few minutes, the only sounds were forks scraping plates and Lindsay typing on her phone. Then as I spread butter on my bagel, she looked up and delivered her line, "Nice of you to show up like it makes a difference." No one reacted. No one told her to stop. My father laughed quietly. My mother kept eating. I didn't flinch, didn't say a word. I just sat there chewing that tough, stale bagel like it was holding me together. Even Jake didn't look up. But something broke inside me. Not a yell, not a spark, just a silent, sharp snap. I finished my meal, mumbled about needing to run errands, and left. The next day, I opened my laptop and logged into every streaming account they used, all registered under my name because I'd set them up years ago when they couldn't figure it out. I'd been paying for them out of routine. No one ever offered to chip in or take over. I canceled them all: Netflix, Hulu, Max, Spotify, even the obscure holiday movie service my mother had pleaded for last winter. 3 days later, around 10 p.m., Jake texted me, "Why's everything cut off?" The family group chat went wild shortly after. Lindsay complained about the internet being down. My mother wondered if the TV was broken. My father sent a random thumbs-up emoji. No one reached out to me directly. No one thought to. I watched the mess unfold like I was perched above a collapsing stage. That same night, I took another step. I opened my files and found the folder labeled Lake Property, the lake house in Traverse City, or as they called it, the family retreat. It had been in my name for 4 years, transferred to me by my father to shield it from a potential lawsuit. He'd said it was temporary, just paperwork, that I'd sign it back when things settled. They never did. He never mentioned it again, and I never volunteered, so I put it on the market. I didn't even visit the place. I sent the realtor photos from last summer, told her to price it for a quick sale, and by Friday we had 2 offers, one in cash. I accepted. Signed the closing papers. That evening my phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. It was Ronald Beringer, my father's lawyer. The call came as I was eating cold pasta straight from the pot, standing over the sink. I wasn't in the mood, and the unknown number didn't help, but I picked up. He introduced himself, said he was calling for my father, and got straight to the point. My father had learned the lake house was listed and was, in Ron's words, deeply upset. He wanted to know if it was an error or if I'd acted on my own. I stayed quiet, letting him talk. Ron said my father believed the transfer was temporary, that there was an unspoken agreement I'd return it once his finances stabilized. He mentioned potential legal issues and serious ramifications if the sale went through. I told him to check the county records. Silence. Then a forced laugh. He asked if I had the transfer papers. I said I did. He asked if I'd send them. I told him he'd get them through official channels like everything else. I hung up. The next day, I got an email from someone at Ron's firm. This one was sharper. They were formally demanding I halt all sale activities pending an ownership review. I forwarded it to the title company with scans of the deed, transfer, and notarized record from 4 years ago. I didn't reply to the email. On Wednesday, the sale closed. The buyer from Chicago paid cash, no inspection. I watched 6 figures land in my account like I'd just won a gamble no one thought I'd make. By Thursday night, my phone rang again. My father. I let it ring 4 times before answering. He didn't bother with a greeting. Just started shouting about disloyalty, family, and how I'd exploited him. He called me a thief, stealing from my own kin, and vowed to sue me until I was ruined. I let him rant. Then calmly, I said I'd kept every document, every email, every receipt. That I hadn't touched the house in 4 years and no one had asked for it back. That if he wanted to go to court, I'd be ready and I wouldn't cover his legal fees this time. He hung up. That weekend, I found my car covered in eggs. Not just the windshield, roof, doors, grill. Yolks oozed into the vents. It reeked for days. I knew it was them, probably Lindsay. It was her style, petty, immature. If she couldn't win, she'd throw a fit. I got it cleaned and moved on. Monday morning, my mailbox was stuffed with shredded paper. Coupons, junk mail, random scraps, packed so tight I had to claw it out. No note, no signature, just chaos. Again, I stayed silent. That Friday, I found my rear tire slashed. Not punctured, sliced clean through the sidewall. It cost me $170. The next week, it was the front tire. The week after, another. Always one at a time. Just enough to strand me without triggering insurance. I didn't call the cops, didn't confront anyone, just replaced the tires and saved every receipt in a folder labeled petty. But I wasn't finished. 2 years ago, Lindsay couldn't get a car loan. Her credit was shot, late payments, a college repo. She begged me to cousin, said it was just to get approved, she'd handle every payment, I'd never have to worry. She missed the first payment. I didn't tell her, I paid it. Then the next and the next. For 24 months, I covered her car loan out of guilt, habit, or some dumb loyalty. I don't know, but no more. That Friday, I logged in and stopped the auto pay. No heads up, no text, just quiet. I shut my laptop and waited for the fallout. It took 3 days. 3 days after I stopped Lindsay's car payments, my phone erupted. Monday morning, I had 9 missed calls, 7 voicemails, and 13 texts, all from Lindsay. She rarely called. She'd text for favors, send voice memos for rants, or passive-aggressive gifts for points. But this time, she called. Over and over, I didn't pick up. Her text started simple. Yo, did the loan payment glitch? Then the real ones hit. My car payment didn't go through and I got a late notice. What the hell, Andrew? If this is some kind of stunt, it's not funny. I need to drive to work. Then nothing. 2 hours of silence. At 11:32 a.m., the family group chat flared up. Lindsay, someone's messing with my account. My car payment bounced and I'm overdue now. Who knows what's going on? Jake, isn't it your loan? Dad, sort it out. Mom, why is there so much drama lately? We're not this kind of family. I didn't respond. I just watched them talk around me like I was some hired help who'd quit without notice. At 3:10 p.m., Lindsay posted a screenshot in the chat. Her loan portal, a big red warning at the top. Payment failed. Account past due. Jake reacted with a thumbs up, probably a mistake. I kept reading. She wrote a long spiel about how she was working on her credit and how someone, me, had chosen to sabotage her out of spite. She claimed she'd never asked for help and wasn't even sure why I was involved in the first place. Sure. I left the chat and deleted it. I was done with their fiction. 2 nights later, Jake messaged me directly. He didn't ask what happened. He already knew. He'd been caught in the chaos. He just wrote, they're falling apart. I think Dad broke the hallway door. Lindsay's calling everyone she knows. Mom hasn't spoken to anyone since yesterday. I asked how he was holding up. He said, I need to get out of here. I told him I'd pick him up the next day. We didn't go back to the house after I got him. Just grabbed burgers and drove to a part of town we never visited. I'd been looking at listings for weeks. Found a small 1-bedroom in an older complex, cheap, clean, near a bus line. Rent was $600, utilities separate but doable. I didn't tell him until we pulled into the lot. He thought we were just passing time. I handed him the keys and told him to take a look. He stood in the empty living room, hands in his pockets, just staring. Then he asked, "Why are you doing this?" I said it wasn't a gift. It was a loan. I'd cover the deposit, first and last month's rent, and some startup costs. But he'd pay every cent back. Not because I needed it, but because he needed to take it seriously. First payment due in a month. Whatever he could manage. No free rides, just a chance. He nodded and said, "Deal." That night we stopped by the house. He darted in, grabbed a backpack and his gaming console, and was out in under 10 minutes. No one stopped him. No one asked where he was going. Maybe they didn't care. Maybe they knew. I dropped him off with some groceries, an old mattress I'd brought earlier, and a Wi-Fi router I'd set up in his name. At midnight, he texted me. This is the first time I've felt calm in months. I didn't reply, just smiled and put my phone down. Let them spiral, let them scramble. I wasn't done yet. Leaving your family isn't always loud. It's not yelling or slamming doors or tearful goodbyes on the front steps. It's when you stop answering. Stop fixing their messes without being asked. Stop paying, explaining, showing up. That's when they notice. It had been weeks since I cut off Lindsay's car payments and got Jake settled. No one had called me since. Not even Lindsay, which was surprising. She probably thought I'd fold, send a payment, clean up her mess like always, but I didn't. And she didn't ask. I had time now. Real time. No more juggling bills that weren't mine or pretending I cared about family meals where no one looked at me. One night, I opened my bank records from the last 2 years and did the math. I'd saved just over $11,000. 11 grand that used to vanish monthly into Lindsay's car, payments, insurance top-ups, late fees she never mentioned. 24 months of quietly bleeding me dry because she was fixing her credit, and I was the dependable one. Then I looked at what I'd spent on Jake. Rent for 2 months, deposit, mattress, groceries, a bus pass, total just under $3,000, and Jake was working now part-time at a hardware store. He sent his first payment right on time, $100 with a screenshot of the transfer. I didn't comment, but I saved it in the folder with his lease. He was trying. No excuses, no theatrics, just effort. A week later, I ran into Uncle Brad at the grocery store near the dairy aisle. He seemed startled to see me. Asked how I was, then leaned in like he was sharing a secret. "Your mom says you're going through something." I smiled. "You could say that." He paused. "She said you cleared out the family accounts. Sold the house right out from under them." I laughed. "The house that's been in my name for 4 years. He glanced around like someone might overhear. "Between us, no one really believes that story. They've been over the top since you were kids. Everyone knows Lindsay's the golden child." I didn't reply. Then he said, "We're staying out of it. I told your dad that too, but just so you know, not everyone thinks you're the bad guy." That hit me harder than I expected. Later that week, I saw my cousin Allie downtown. She pulled me aside, got me a coffee, and echoed the same sentiment, that my parents were telling people I'd abandoned the family, gone heartless. But she wasn't buying it. "I don't know the whole story," she said, "but they always leaned on you too hard." Apparently, the extended family was divided. Some stayed quiet, others quietly cheered me on. None wanted to confront my parents directly. They were still family, after all, but more than one relative told me in their own way, "We get it." That was enough. I didn't need them to take sides. I just needed them to stop acting like my parents were flawless. And Lindsay. She stopped posting vague sob stories online after getting a notice that her car would be repossessed unless she paid up. I didn't say anything. Didn't warn her. Just let the system work. Meanwhile, Jake texted about a second job interview. He was thinking about night classes next semester. Didn't want to stay in retail forever. I told him if he kept up his payments, I'd help with tuition when the time came. Same terms, every dollar a loan, earned, not given. For the first time, I wasn't the family's piggy bank. I wasn't the fallback for people who never returned the favor. They wanted to act like I didn't matter. Fine. Now they could live in a world where I truly didn't. A month after getting Jake settled, I got a letter, not a text, not an email. A handwritten letter in a ripped envelope with a shaky return address. No stamp, hand-delivered. From my mother, it was short. She said she hoped I was okay, that she missed how things were, that Dad was still very angry, and Lindsay was going through a lot. Then, at the bottom, almost as an afterthought, "Please don't tear the family apart anymore." That line lingered for hours. Please don't tear the family apart anymore, as if I'd taken something from them, as if I'd only caused pain. No mention of what I'd given, the house, the money, the years of showing up when they barely noticed me. No apology, just guilt in loopy handwriting. I burned the letter in a bowl on my balcony. 2 days later, Jake called from a friend's phone. His had been cut off. Mom had removed him from the family plan. I told him to keep the borrowed phone for now. He said thanks, but he'd manage. He'd get a prepaid and sort it out. That same night, my credit monitoring app pinged. A new auto loan inquiry. In my name. I froze, opened the alert. It was from a dealership in the next town. Someone had tried to apply for financing using my social security number. It didn't go through, likely because I'd locked my credit after the house sale, but the attempt was made. I called the dealership the next morning. They said a woman had come in with my info, no ID, just details, claiming she was authorized because I was handling it remotely. They wouldn't give a name, but I didn't need one. It was Lindsay. I filed a fraud alert that afternoon. Didn't tell her, let her wonder why her next try got blocked. Let her keep sinking. That weekend, I visited Jake. Brought some frozen dinners and a few kitchen supplies. We sat on his worn-out couch, watching him tinker with a shaky chair someone had given him for free. He said he was picking up extra shifts and planned to pay me back $150 a month instead of $100. I asked why the change. He shrugged. "Feels right." Then he said, "They're spiraling harder than ever. Dad tried to get into my email last week. I caught the login attempt." I nodded. "Sounds like them." Then he said something unexpected. Lindsay said they're planning to come after you legally again, not through the courts, though. I asked what he meant. She didn't say much. Just that they're gonna make you regret turning your back on them. I didn't reply, just let the words hang. It wasn't a direct threat, but it wasn't nothing either. Jake saw my expression and said, I told them that's the issue. They never knew what to do with me either. By the end of the night, I was back in my apartment on my couch, watching Jake's rent payment hit my account. On time, no fuss. And in that moment, I realized something. The more they unraveled, the quieter I got and the stronger I felt. They had nothing left to hold over me, and they hadn't even realized it yet. 3 months. That's how long it had been since I cut the final tie. No calls from my mother. No voicemails from my father. Lindsay hadn't reached out either, though Jake said she'd tried using my info again to open a store credit card. That got shut down before it was even processed. I reported it and moved on. It wasn't even shocking anymore. Jake was still in his small apartment, still working 2 jobs, still sending payments every month, sometimes just $80, but always on time. Always with a note, still trying. That meant more than anything I ever got from the rest of them. He called one night after work, said he wanted to take an HVAC certification course, night classes. Said he'd checked the tuition, and it wasn't too bad, but he couldn't cover it all yet. He didn't ask for help, just said it aloud like he was testing the idea. I told him what I always did. Keep up the payments, stay consistent, and I'd cover it as a loan. Every dollar tracked, nothing free. He said, that's fair, and moved on to another topic. That night, I opened the folder on my desktop labeled Family Mess. I hadn't touched it in weeks, but I wanted to see the numbers again. I added up every payment I'd stopped, every subscription I'd ended, every loan I'd cut off. Total saved, $11,052. Then I calculated what I'd spent on Jake, apartment deposit, rent, furniture, groceries. A phone when his got cut. $31,035 total. That left me with $79,017 I'd never have seen if I'd kept playing their game. I hadn't spoken to my parents. They hadn't tried. Jake said things at the house had gotten weird. Lindsay moved back in for good. Dad started locking his office. Mom took down every family photo with me in it, like erasing me would fix things. They told their story to anyone who'd listen. That I'd robbed them, abandoned the family, betrayed them for cash, but they always skipped the details. The years I paid for everything without credit. The lake house they signed over to dodge taxes. The way they laughed when Lindsay humiliated me at brunch. People noticed those gaps. I saw Uncle Brad again at a gas station. He gave me a cautious nod and said, heard they're still pissed. Heard you're still coming out on top. I didn't respond, just smiled and finished pumping gas. He said, most of us think you did what you had to. We just don't know how to say it without starting a war. Then he added, must feel good to not be needed anymore. And it did. That was it exactly. I wasn't needed. Not anymore. I was free. And they were still trapped in that house with each other. 3 months later, everything was different, not for them, but for me. They still lived in that same rundown house. Lindsay moved in permanently. She sold the Audi after missing 2 more payments and getting another repo notice. Bought a 10-year-old Honda with cash, probably scraped together or begged from someone else. Jake said she still acted like she owned the place, snapping at everyone, blaming others for how unfair life was to her lately. Dad barely left the basement anymore. Sat in his recliner, remote in one hand, beer in the other. Jake stopped going down there, said it was like stepping into a shrine of regret, filled with silence, muttering, and bitterness he didn't bother hiding. Mom started rearranging the house again, moving chairs, relabeling kitchen jars, sorting unused cabinets. Her usual tactic when things fell apart, control the small stuff while the big stuff crumbled quietly. They never reached out, not once. So, what are your thoughts on this story? Do you agree with what happened, or do you see it differently? Let us know your opinion in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our upcoming stories. See you in the next one.